So, is Poland a racist country? The short answer, yes. The long answer, yes. But in order to really answer this, you have to go super deep into their history, understand where their mentality comes from. And I also want to share a little bit of my experience here in Poland to see if Polish people are truly racist. So first off, you have to understand that Polish people just hate everybody in general. That's just kind of how the culture is here. They're very pessimistic in a lot of ways. And this is a big difference than coming from America, where we're extremely optimistic. And I don't really blame them, because if you look at their 20th century, they had probably one of the worst 20th centuries in the world, being involved in multiple wars, having their land taken away from them. It was just a whole entire mess. So that's why when people from first world countries, specifically like America, right, it's very hard for us to understand the mentality of people from this side of the world, because we've never lived under communism. We've never had our homeland taken away from us. So it's not as easy as just saying that, ooh, Polish people are extremely racist. So now that we know that Polish people just kind of hate everybody, they even hate each other in a lot of ways, and I might talk about that in another video. The group that gets the most hate here in this country are actually the Ukrainians. And Ukrainians are white. So yes, black people and Arabs get it quite bad as well. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Are Polish people really racist, or are they just tribalistic towards outsiders? I lean towards more of the tribalism part, because if you even look inside the country, you can't even go to some of the football games because the hooligan gangs are so intense, and they will even get into fights on the street. They will freaking beat each other up. If you don't sing and chant along with them, you can also get beat up. Just a lot of crazy tribalism just with something as stupid as sports. If you extrapolate that out to a whole entire country, I think they're just more of like tribalistic here. I think the overall mentality of Polish people is they see people as outsiders or allies. This is something I've talked about and I've really confirmed now. There are certain groups of people, such as Americans or Asians in particular, are considered as allies. If you are Ukrainian or Russian or even sometimes German, Arab or black, or even sometimes Indian, you are considered an outsider. And there's just an overall, in general, anti-immigrant wave passing through all of Europe right now. Poland already is quite a nationalistic country, so it seems like it's a little bit more heightened here. So when you're talking about subjects like this, I think it's very important to look at context. For example, the N-word, you're not supposed to say it, right? But let me challenge you guys. Why is it so wrong for someone like me to say the N-word? I was neither the perpetrator of slavery nor a victim of slavery, right? I'm just looking at it from the outside. If we're not allowed to say the word, why is it so common in hip-hop and black music that I grew up and I love listening to? Am I not allowed to sing the song? What if people who experience conditions worse than slavery recently over the last like 20, 30 years, what if they say the N-word? Are they allowed to say it? A lot of racism and words around racism are very context dependent. In Poland, there didn't exist this dynamic of like the slaver versus slaves, black versus white, none of that. A lot of times when people are racist to darker skinned people, for example, it often comes more from a place of ignorance, a lot of times just humor instead of straight up hatred, right? Even though I would argue that I do have some friends that hate, for example, black people or the Jews or the Arabs. Another big cultural difference is that Slavic people and just people in this side of the world, because I think Asians were kind of similar, like especially Chinese people, we're just very honest and direct. And in America, we're all very friendly, but we try to sugarcoat a lot of the things we want to say because we have this like politically correct culture, right? Whereas people in this side of the world will just kind of tell you how it is. There's this weird paradox here in Poland. I struggle with this a lot, where the Polish people will say that they're very honest and direct, some of the most honest people you'll ever meet, but then they'll say some really effed up stuff even about each other, right? Like Polish women are dumb, Polish men are useless, that kind of stuff, like openly. And I hear it and I'm like, that doesn't really sound like a joke, that sounds like a dig. But then they'll say, oh no, we didn't really mean it, it's just us joking. And I'm trying to balance these two ideas at once. Which one is it? Are you guys true to your word, or are you guys just joking? But maybe this is just a cultural context that I haven't fully understood yet. I got into this argument with this college girl. We were like talking about smoking or whatever. I made a comment like smoking is very bad for you. I think that's one of the reasons why Slavic people, especially the women, age so quickly. And then she said something under her breath like "Mężczyzny są dupy," men have no brains, something like that. And when I heard that, I got really triggered. I was like, what the F are you saying? I thought she was trying to make a dig at me. But then they were saying, oh no, it's just something that they say in passing because it's just a joke, right? Like they'll often joke that, oh, that girl's a dumb blonde. Oh, this person, men are dumb, that kind of stuff. And I don't know, to me, I didn't quite get it because it sounded more like a dig than an actual joke, but maybe that's just a cultural thing. While on the flip side, Polish humor is very, very dark. Something that I actually love about being here is that I feel like I don't really have to watch my tongue. You can say the most egregious stuff, super crazy jokes, super racist, super anything against religion, and Polish people love it. They'll laugh at it with you and they'll make jokes equally as harsh. You have to also understand that your experience as a foreigner will change based on what city you go to. If you're in the bigger cities, especially like Warsaw or Wrocław or Krakow, they see tourists all the time, so you being a foreigner is not going to be that big of a deal to them. But if you go to a lot of the smaller cities, Torun, Opole, Katowice, where they're extremely homogenous, you being a foreigner, you're just gonna stand out like crazy. Polish people also really like to stare, which can be off-putting for a lot of people. But a lot of times, because this happens in like Asia as well, when they see you as a different person, like let's say you have a sea of white people and then there's a random black person or like a random Arab woman with a burqa or hijab or whatever, right? Of course they're going to draw attention. Like what do you expect is going to happen? And I think it's important for us as foreigners to distinguish between, okay, they're staring at me. Is it hostile? Are they trying to be rude? Or does it just come from a curious place? And I would argue that most of the time, what we perceive as racism from our Western lenses isn't actually racism. Most of the times, it's just curiosity. Because a lot of these people grew up in areas where there were no foreigners. So seeing a foreigner like this is a very big deal to them. On the bright side, it does seem like a lot of the younger generation is extremely open, especially if they're going to uni, if they're from the bigger cities like Poznan or Wrocław or Warsaw. A lot of the younger generation grew up with American values in TikTok. So you can see the change happening. A lot of them speak English. A lot of them are a lot more open liberally just to, LGBT. I've lived to a university that's a private university focused on psychology. They are just very open and tolerant, which is an interesting dynamic because I know a lot of older Polish people are not like that at all. So you see this interesting culture shift happening in this country right now. So now coming to my experience. Overall, I think that people have not been that racist to me. Maybe there have been some people who have made comments here and there, but I think when they did make those comments, my Polish wasn't good enough to really understand what they're saying. Asians in general are so well respected in this part of the world. This is one of the reasons why I actually really love living here, because Polish people have curiosity for a lot of other places around the world. For example, like other places in Europe, Spain, Italy, the UK. A lot of Polish people are somewhat interested in Africa, but I think by far Asia, especially the East Asian countries, have a huge amount of interest from Polish people. There's a lot of cultural similarities, and I think Polish people are just very fascinated by the Far East, of our culture, of our cuisine, of our habits, and we get along very well. And especially because now I speak a good amount of Polish, and when I'm on the street, like if I'm on the metro or I'm at the supermarket, and me being able to converse with the local people changes your experience drastically. Because Polish people can come off very rude and direct. But once you understand a bit of Polish and you can respond back to them, the treatment is like a total 180. If you're just like a tourist, they don't expect you to speak any Polish. So if you speak like just basic dziękuję, dzień dobry, just like the basic stuff, they'll be very, very impressed. But if they see that you live here and you haven't taken the time to learn the language or even try to integrate, a lot of Polish people have a problem with that. I think that's totally justified, right? If you move to any other country, you have to assimilate to their culture and you have to learn the language. So from that side, I don't think Polish people are that racist, at least to me, right? I know if you are black or if you're Arab or if you're Indian, you may have a completely different experience, but my experience has been overwhelmingly positive. Also because I don't really go out that much anymore. From what I've heard, a lot of these situations with racist people have usually happened at night when people are out at the bars or clubs and stuff and alcohol gets involved. You have groups of guys getting together, people are drunk, people are talking shit. That's just kind of the culture. But for my friends who have heard like racist slurs thrown at them, it's not like you're walking down the street and someone will randomly shout it at you. It's usually in the context of like a bar, or maybe you're talking to a local girl and some of the local guys have a problem with that. Maybe it's a lot more common in a lot of the smaller cities as well compared to the bigger cities. So there's a lot of just context around it that will greatly change your experience as a foreigner. I'm gonna be honest though, I kind of like the fact that Poland is racist because I think that is one of the main reasons why it's so safe here. A lot of people don't want to talk about this, but when you import a lot of people from different countries with completely different cultures, there is no social cohesion and you no longer see yourself in your neighbors. So that overall leads to a lower trust society. And when you have certain societies that are a lot more lenient towards crime than others, and you bring those people into a high trust society, it's inevitable that they're going to cause chaos. Recently, I've heard a lot of issues happening with like the Colombians that have lived here. There's actually quite a bit of Colombians that live in Poland, funny enough. If we look at everything that's going on in Western Europe right now with these crazy, uncontrolled, illegal immigration being brought into these countries and completely changing the vibe and the safety and environment of everything, the fact that Poland is racist and is willing to take a stand and say, no, we will not accept any Muslim illegal immigrants into this country, I really respect that and I appreciate that a lot. As someone who believes in legal immigration and assimilation, I think this is a very important point. Poland is also a country that prioritizes its citizens over everybody else. Now, some people will claim that that is racist, but to me, that's totally common sense. And as an outsider myself, if the country wants to give a lot more benefits to a Polish citizen over myself, I'm a guest in this country. Sure, maybe it will suck, but it makes a lot of sense from their standpoint. So I'm not going to sit here and complain and call them racist. And if anything, I wish that other countries, specifically my home country, US, I wish that we did that we prioritize our own citizens over all these people coming from all these other countries that we have no idea about. So there's two sides to the coin. From a emotional argument, people hear racism think that it's automatically a bad thing. In my opinion, the results speak for themselves. Poland is developing very quickly. It is extremely safe here. It's a great place to raise a family. Women feel super comfortable at night walking in the middle of the night in most parts of the city. So I think it's quite admirable, the society that Poland has created, and I think them being racist has a huge part to play with that. They've treated me quite well. I feel like I've been a pretty good guest, a good immigrant into this country. I've learned the language, I've assimilated into their culture. So I think as long as you do that, no matter how you look like, you're gonna be welcome here with open arms. I recommend you guys watch this video next.